The fox women assassin who came to kill me. Fell for me instead broken heart ray gun. The failed assassination. The study smelled of old books and burning cedar when Seraphine Nightshade slipped through the window like smoke given form. Her fox ears twitched, tracking every sound in the diplomat's manner, while her russet tail remained perfectly still behind her. The target sat at his desk, utterly vulnerable, illuminated by a single lamp that made his dark hair shine like polished onyx. Dante Ashford didn't look up from his correspondence. "Third shelf from the bottom, behind the philosophy texts," he said calmly. "That's where I keep the good brandy. You're welcome to some before we discuss why the Shadowfang Guild wants me dead." Seraphine's hand froze on her blade. In 15 years of kills, no target had ever acknowledged her presence so casually. Her amber eyes narrowed as she studied him, broad shoulders relaxed, long fingers still holding his pen, no weapon in sight. Either he was supremely confident or completely mad. "You knew I was coming." Her voice emerged as a purr laced with danger. "I know many things." Dante finally set down his pen and turned to face her fully. His grey eyes held no fear, only genuine curiosity. "I know the Guild considers my diplomatic reforms a threat to their contracts. I know you're their finest operative. And I know you've been watching my house for 3 days, trying to understand why someone would choose negotiation over violence." Heat crept into Seraphine's cheeks beneath her dark mask. How had he noticed? She was shadow incarnate, trained since childhood to be invisible. Dante stood slowly, hands visible and empty. "I also know that killing me won't stop the reforms, only delay them. But talking to me might actually solve the problem." He moved to the shelf, retrieved 2 crystal glasses and an amber bottle. "So let's talk, Seraphine." Her name on his lips sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She should strike now, complete the contract, vanish into the night. Instead, she found herself stepping forward into the lamplight, her tail swaying with uncertainty she'd never felt before. "You don't fear death, Dante Ashford." "I fear many things." He poured 2 measures with steady hands. Wasted potential. Unnecessary suffering. Missing the chance to understand someone extraordinary. His eyes met hers with disarming sincerity. "But you? I find you fascinating rather than frightening." No one had ever called her fascinating. Deadly, yes. Efficient, certainly. Beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. But fascinating suggested depth, humanity, worth beyond her skills. Against every instinct, every rule, every shred of professional training, Seraphine sheathed her blade and accepted the glass he offered. Their fingers brushed, and the contact burned hotter than the brandy sliding down her throat. "Tell me," Dante said softly, settling into the chair across from her, "when did you last have a conversation that wasn't about death?" Unexpected alliance. The window exploded inward with a shower of glass and smoke bombs. Seraphine moved on pure instinct, tackling Dante behind his heavy desk as crossbow bolts thudded into the wood where he'd been sitting. Her body covered his, feeling the rapid beat of his heart against her chest. "Crimson Talon," she hissed, recognizing the attack pattern. "They're here for both of us now." "Both?" Dante's breath warmed her neck as he spoke. "My guild knows I haven't reported your death. They've sent competition." Seraphine's ears tracked 3 distinct footsteps spreading through the room. "We need to move. Now." She expected panic, but Dante simply nodded and followed her lead as she pulled him toward the servants' passage hidden behind the bookshelf. More assassins were coming. She could smell the poison on their blades, hear the whisper of their clothes. Her tail wrapped protectively around Dante's wrist, guiding him through the darkness. They descended through walls and under floors, through passages Seraphine had memorized during her surveillance but never expected to use for escape. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit echoed like hunting wolves. "There's an old aqueduct that connects to the city source," Dante whispered, his composure impressive for someone whose life had become a running nightmare. "I can get us to a safe house if we make it that far." "We'll make it." Seraphine felt something fierce and protective surge through her chest. "I don't fail." They burst into the ancient waterways beneath the city, Dante leading now through the maze of stone tunnels. An assassin dropped from above, blade aimed for Dante's spine, but Seraphine was faster. She spun, her own blade singing through the air, and the attacker crumpled without a sound. "Behind you!" Dante called, and Seraphine ducked as he threw a loose brick past her head, stunning another pursuer long enough for her to finish the job. They moved as one now, his strategic mind and her lethal grace creating an unexpected harmony. When they finally stumbled into a concealed safe house, a forgotten wine cellar beneath an abandoned merchant's house, both were breathing hard, splattered with evidence of their escape. Dante lit a small lamp while Seraphine checked her wounds. A crossbow bolt had grazed her shoulder, tearing through cloth and fur. Before she could tend it herself, Dante was there with clean water and cloth from the emergency supplies. "Let me," he said softly. His hands were gentle as he cleaned the wound, his touch sending shivers through her that had nothing to do with pain. Seraphine found herself studying his face in the lamplight, the strong jaw, the careful concentration in his eyes, the way his lips pressed together as he worked. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked quietly. "I came to kill you." Dante's eyes lifted to meet hers. "Because I see who you are beneath what they trained you to be. And that person is worth saving, Seraphine. Even if she doesn't believe it yet." Something cracked open in her chest, a wall she'd built over decades. Moments between shadows. 3 days in the safe house transformed everything. They took turns sleeping, shared rationed food, and slowly, inevitably, shared pieces of themselves they'd kept hidden from the world. Seraphine sat by the small window, moonlight painting silver streaks through her fox-red hair. "I was 5 when the guild bought me from slavers. They said I was special, that my fox blood made me valuable. They were right, but not the way they meant." Dante moved to sit beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "You made yourself valuable through skill and determination. They just provided the crucible. You defend me even though I'm a killer." Her tail curled around her knees defensively. "I'm a diplomat who's negotiated treaties that led to wars. We've both traded in consequence." His hand found hers in the darkness. "The question isn't what we've been. It's what we choose to become." She turned to face him fully, searching his grey eyes for deception and finding only steady warmth. "What do you see when you look at me, Dante? Truth now." "I see someone brilliant who's been taught she's only a weapon. I see loneliness disguised as strength. I see courage in how you question everything you were raised to believe." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I see a woman I'm falling for, despite every logical reason not to." The admission hung between them like a struck bell. Seraphine had killed people for less dangerous words, but these made her feel defenseless in an entirely different way. "This is insanity," she whispered, even as she leaned closer. "I'm an assassin. You're my target. This isn't how these stories end." "Then let's write a different ending." Dante's hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch reverent. "Let's be the story no one expects." When their lips met, Seraphine felt 15 years of ice begin to thaw. The kiss started gentle, exploratory, but quickly deepened into something hungry and desperate. His hands tangled in her hair while hers clutched his shirt, pulling him closer. She'd never known touch could be tender, that desire could be paired with genuine care. They broke apart breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. Seraphine's ears lay flat with emotion, her tail wrapped around both of them. "I've never..." She started, then laughed shakily. "I've killed hundreds, but I've never been kissed like that." Dante smiled against her lips. "Then I'm honored to be your first." He kissed her again, softer now, more promise than passion. "And if you'll have me, I'd like to be your only." Seraphine pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "I don't know how to be anything but what I am." "You don't have to stop being deadly, Seraphine. You just have to choose who deserves your protection instead of who deserves your blade." He tucked a strand of hair behind her fox ear. "Choose me. Choose us. Choose the life we could build together." Outside, the moon tracked across the sky while inside, an assassin who'd never believed in love discovered it in the arms of the man she'd been sent to kill. The guild's reckoning. The attack came at dawn, when exhaustion made even trained killers vulnerable. Seraphine's ears caught the whisper of displacement, a heartbeat, before 6 Shadow Fang assassins crashed through every entrance simultaneously. "Stay behind me." Seraphine pushed Dante toward the only defensible corner, her blades appearing in her hands like extensions of her will. But Dante grabbed a heavy iron candlestick, his diplomatic mask falling away to reveal something harder underneath. "We fight together or not at all." They had no time to argue. The first assassin came high, the second low. Seraphine parried both strikes while her tail swept a third attacker's legs. Dante's improvised weapon connected with a fourth skull with surprising force. "Traitor!" The lead assassin, a jackal hybrid named Korvax, snarled at Seraphine. "The guild raised you. We were your family. You were my prison." Seraphine ducked a blade meant to separate her head from her shoulders. "You taught me to kill but never to live." She moved like lethal poetry, every strike precise, every dodge calculated. But there were too many, all trained as well as she was. A blade opened a line across her ribs. Another sliced her thigh. She could feel herself slowing, could see the calculation in Korvax's eyes as he positioned for the killing blow. Dante saw it too. Without hesitation, he threw himself between them. Time crystallized into single heartbeat. The blade meant for Seraphine's heart buried itself in Dante's shoulder instead. He gasped but didn't fall, his other hand still gripping his makeshift weapon. Something primal and terrifying erupted in Seraphine's chest. She'd felt fury before, had killed in anger and cold efficiency. But this was different. This was love transformed into pure protective violence. She moved faster than she'd ever moved, her blades becoming invisible blurs. The assassin who'd stabbed Dante died before he could extract his weapon. Korvax barely raised his guard before she was on him, her strikes no longer precise but devastatingly effective. 2 more attackers fell back from her onslaught, fear finally appearing in their professional eyes. "He's worth more than all your contracts." Seraphine's voice carried the full weight of her conviction. "He sees people, not targets. He builds instead of destroys. And he chose to love me when I'd given him every reason to hate me." She finished Korvax with a combination that had been forbidden for its brutality. The last 2 assassins fled, and Seraphine let them go. They would carry her message back to the guild. Then she was at Dante's side, her hands shaking as she examined his wound. "You magnificent idiot. Why did you do that?" "Because a world where you die and I live isn't worth living in." Dante smiled despite the pain. "Because I love you, Seraphine. All of you, even the deadly parts." Through tears she didn't know she could cry, Seraphine kissed him with desperate tenderness. A new beginning. 6 months later, Seraphine stood in Dante's study, now their study, reading the morning reports. The Shadow Fang Guild had dissolved under legal pressure from 3 kingdoms, their leadership exposed through evidence Seraphine had provided and Dante had weaponized through diplomatic channels. The surviving assassins had scattered, some seeking legitimate work, others simply vanishing. Dante entered carrying 2 cups of coffee, his shoulder healed but bearing an impressive scar he wore with unexpected pride. "The council wants us to train a new security force. They're calling it reformed vigilance, protection instead of assassination." Seraphine accepted her cup, her tail immediately curling around his waist in the unconscious intimacy they developed. "Us? They want the former assassin and her bleeding heart diplomat to train guards. They want the woman who chose humanity over contracts and the man who chose love over safety." Dante set down his cup to pull her close. "They want what we proved is possible, that the deadliest skills can protect instead of destroy when guided by the right heart." She melted into his embrace, still sometimes amazed that touch could feel like safety instead of strategy. "I never imagined this. Any of this." "What?" "That the assassin sent to kill me would end up planning our wedding." Dante teased, pressing a kiss to her forehead, then each ear, then finally her lips. "Especially that." Seraphine laughed against his mouth. "Though I still say we should keep the ceremony small. Old habits and all. Whatever you want, love. Though I should warn you, I've been practicing my vows, and they're devastatingly romantic." "Oh no." She grinned. The diplomat is going to make me cry at our own wedding. Count on it. Dante's expression softened. Because you taught me that the bravest thing anyone can do is choose love even when every instinct screams danger. You walked into my study to end my life and ended up giving me a reason to truly live. Seraphine kissed him deeply, putting 15 years of loneliness and 6 months of joy into the gesture. When they parted, her amber eyes shone with unshed tears. I came to kill you and discovered something sharper than any blade, that being loved transforms everything, even an assassin's heart. Outside their window, the city awakened to a new day. And inside, a foxwoman who'd been taught only death and a diplomat who'd chosen only life built their future together, one tender moment at a time. Their story spread through whispered legends: the assassin who couldn't complete her contract because her target defended her humanity, the diplomat who loved her not despite her deadliness but because of the strength it took to set it aside. And in the shadows where assassins still lurked, some began to wonder if there might be a different way. Lessons of love. True love sees not what you were made to be, but who you choose to become. The deadliest weapon in the world is a heart that's learned to protect instead of destroy. Sometimes the bravest act is laying down your blade and reaching for an open hand instead. Love transforms when two people risk everything, not for death, but for the chance to truly live together.
Hearts unguarded. The rooftop observatory on Meridian Tech's 85th floor opened to employees only on clear nights, a forgotten perk from the building's construction decades ago. Ryan had discovered it during his early years, finding solace in the vast expanse of stars above Etheron's glittering sprawl. He'd never brought anyone here before. Until tonight. Mira emerged from the access elevator, her hair loose around her shoulders, wearing a flowing dress that caught the evening breeze. The silver streaks in her auburn hair gleamed like captured starlight. 3 weeks had passed since the investigation concluded, 3 weeks of stolen lunches and careful professionalism as they navigated their new relationship under corporate scrutiny. "You found my secret place," Ryan said, pulling her into his arms. "You left coordinates on my desk." She laughed, the sound musical and free. With a note that said, "Meet me where we discuss dreams." Very mysterious. "I have a reputation to maintain." He kissed her forehead, then her temple, working his way down to her lips. Cold, distant coordinator Thorne couldn't possibly be a romantic. "Your secret's safe with me." Mira melted against him, her body fitting perfectly to his. They swayed gently, dancing to music only they could hear, surrounded by the infinite canvas of night. Above them, constellations wheeled through their ancient paths, Orion hunting, Cassiopeia enthroned, Ursa Major circling eternal. Ryan had mapped these stars countless times, finding comfort in their predictability. But tonight, everything felt new, charged with possibility. "Can I ask you something?" Myra's voice was soft against his chest. "Anything." "That day in the conference room when you took the blame, why did you really do it?" She pulled back to meet his eyes, searchlight honest. "And don't tell me it was about fairness or investigations. I need the real answer." Ryan took a slow breath, gathering courage. "When I saw you sitting there, terrified and alone, I remembered every time I'd been that person. Every mistake I'd made in silence because asking for help felt like admitting weakness. Every moment I'd watched someone else take the fall because it was safer to stay invisible." His thumb traced the line of her jaw, reverent. "But more than that, I saw someone luminous. Someone whose passion for her work lit up every meeting, who treated cleaning staff with the same respect as executives, who brought homemade cookies for the junior analysts on their first day. Someone extraordinary pretending to be ordinary because the world made her believe she had to shrink." Tears spilled down Myra's cheeks, catching moonlight. "Ryan. I couldn't let them diminish that light," he continued, his own voice rough with emotion. "Even if it cost me everything, I couldn't watch the world make you smaller. You deserved someone to believe in you the way I did, the way I do." Myra's kiss was salt-sweet with tears, fierce with gratitude and love. Her hands tangled in his hair as he lifted her, spinning slowly beneath the stars, her laughter spilling into the night like benediction. "I was so afraid," she confessed when they finally stilled. "Afraid of failing, of being exposed as inadequate, of taking up too much space. Then you showed me that the people worth loving are the ones who make space for you. Who see your potential even when you can't. You did the same for me." Ryan pressed his forehead to hers. "I spent years being safe, being invisible. You made me want to be seen. Made me realize that the greatest risk isn't failure, it's never trying at all." They settled on the observatory's cushioned bench, Mira tucked against Ryan's side, his arms secure around her shoulders. She pointed out constellations, telling stories her grandmother had taught her, ancient myths of love and sacrifice, heroes and redemption. There, she indicated a cluster of stars. That's where I want to go someday. Not literally, obviously, but I want to be the kind of person who reaches for impossible things. You already are. Ryan kissed the top of her head. You faced down Director Voss and an entire conference room. You rebuilt your confidence from ashes. You chose love even when logic said it was too fast, too complicated, too risky. We chose love, Mira corrected, turning to straddle his lap, her dress pooling around them like water. You chose it first, and that gave me permission to be brave. Their kiss deepened, unhurried and thorough. Ryan's hands traced the curve of her spine, feeling her shiver despite the warm night. Myra's fingers worked the buttons of his shirt, needing to feel skin against skin, heartbeat against heartbeat. I love you, she whispered between kisses. I love your kindness and your courage. I love how you make me believe I can be extraordinary. You are extraordinary. Ryan captured her face in his palms, staring into hazel eyes that held entire galaxies. And I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. You make every risk worthwhile. Above them, a meteor streaked across the sky, brief, brilliant, impossible to predict. Mira gasped in delight, and Ryan held her tighter, understanding that this moment, this love, was equally rare and precious. They stayed until dawn painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, talking and kissing and dreaming together. When they finally descended to face the world, they did so hand in hand, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Months later, when colleagues asked how they'd gotten together, Ryan would smile mysteriously and Mira would laugh, squeezing his hand. Some stories were too precious to share, some moments too sacred to explain. But sometimes, late at night, they'd return to that rooftop observatory. There, beneath the infinite stars, they'd remember the truth that changed everything. The greatest act of love is choosing to protect someone's light, even when it means risking your own. And in choosing each other, they'd found something neither expected. Not just romance, but the courage to finally, fully become themselves. Lessons from the heart. True love doesn't keep score. It shields without expecting repayment, protects without demanding recognition. Courage is not the absence of fear, but choosing someone else's well-being over your own safety when it matters most. The people who see your potential before you recognize it yourself are the ones worth building forever with. Sometimes falling in love means learning to stand up. For others, for yourself, for the possibility that two hearts can be braver together than either ever was alone.